The long-anticipated release of Farming Simulator 17 has finally arrived, and this edition is unique to that of previous releases in a number of key areas. For this unscripted first-look review, I have deliberately avoided reviews and gameplay from other YouTubers to ensure that I provide my unique and unbiased opinion of the game. All comments are off the cuff and not scripted, so may be changed or updated in the future. Two key features which make this title stand out are that for the first time it is being released on all platforms at the same time. This suggests that future releases could theoretically be on a yearly basis instead of every 2 years. And for the first time ever, the game includes female characters. And the game comes with 2 new maps, Goldcrest Valley and Sosnovka. At just 3.3 GB in size, Farming Simulator 17 is quite a small game, especially when compared to other recent releases. As a result, utilised hard drive space is small and installation is quick and easy. Immediately upon loading the game for the first time, it correctly detected both my G27 and Cytec Pro Farming side panel. Unfortunately, it does not, however, assign any default button configuration. Not even the steering wheel or the pedals. If we venture into the options menu, we can see the General Settings tab, which allows for high-level graphical alterations to be made. The default settings are set quite low, and there appears to be no auto-detect option available. For more experienced users, there is an Advanced Graphics Settings tab, where you can further hone your settings to match your hardware. As has been the case in all previous editions of Farming Simulator, there are a considerable number of button configurations available, all of which can be set to match your own personal style, setup and preference. One interesting discovery was that for each controller axis, the dead zone was set rather high. I'm not too sure why this is, but it is quite simple to change. I am using a G27, and as such I find that a small amount of dead zone to be a benefit. Giant have claimed that enhancements have been made across the board that specifically highlight sound and graphics. I must admit that tractor sounds are greatly improved. Vehicle sounds alter depending on whether you are currently inside or outside of the vehicle. And there is a mild yet noticeable difference from the tyres as they traverse from one terrain type to another, which all adds to the immersion. I have noticed, however, that when moving towards or away from a vehicle, the engine sound does tend to increase or decrease sharply, and that is rather unpleasant. Great emphasis has been placed on lighting in the game world. Unfortunately, I have yet to fully test this, but have found that the light emitting from the new beacons was a little over the top. Regardless, Giant promote that there is more light strewn across each map, and I look forward to testing this out in time for my full review. Graphical improvements across the game include lights, light effects, visual effects and textures. I chose a Holland T8 from FS15 and FS17 to compare the textures and enhancements. To be honest, I found very little in terms of improvement, and I felt that the textures used to show the side of the engine was poor and pretty much identical to the T8 from FS15. So then I can only assume that the texture enhancements they speak of relate to the world and the environment and not the vehicles themselves. I must admit that the game environment probably has got better textures, and it does look pretty good. vehicle interiors are said to have been improved. Now, if you have watched any of my FS15 videos, you will probably know that I have a personal dislike for the interior of all farming simulator vehicles. I found them to be poorly crafted, with little or no attention to detail. FS17 does look better inside the cab, but still there are no moving parts or clickable buttons. There were a number of modded vehicles released for FS15 which included animated windows and doors, and proved that without doubt animating the interior of each vehicle was possible. So I am absolutely distraught to find that absolutely nothing has been done to improve this hugely neglected and highly important part of the game. One feature which has impressed me is the colour blindness function. I don't have colour blindness, but I can imagine that anyone who does will be absolutely over the moon to see that FS17 has resolved what must have been a considerable disadvantage. I have never seen this in a game before, and I think that Giant should be applauded for this. And that is not the only new feature to appear in FS17. You can now find tension belts to ensure that your goods stay secured to their trailer. No longer will you arrive at the lumber mill only to discover that half of your recently chopped timber has fallen off in transit. The weather system has also received an upgrade. It's not quite a dynamic weather system, but weather changes can occur every 6 hours, which is a marked improvement on once a day. A surprise inclusion is that of the train. The train in FS17 is now a fully controllable vehicle, which you can use to quickly transport a variety of produce from point A to point B. It is reasonably well modelled on the outside, and the inside is, well, it certainly isn't going to attract train simulation enthusiasts, but it does add an extra element to the game previously unseen. However unrealistic the whole thing is. The in-game map and information unit has also had a generous amount of time dedicated to it. Information is now displayed with greater clarity by way of a very likeable and intuitive UI design. Navigating and referencing the in-game menu is less of a chore and more of a joy, with all of the relevant information quickly and clearly attainable in a moment's notice. And rest assured that all previous in-game controls are still available. It would be somewhat amiss of me not to mention the newest feature of the game, female avatars. Yes indeed, no longer are our women folk overlooked when it comes to FS17, with 2 extremely handsome characters to choose from, and an option to choose your shirt colour is well received, especially as these settings remain true in multiplayer, unlike its predecessor. In the future, I would love to see more characters to choose from, and perhaps the introduction of a colour palette. No farm is complete without its machinery. It is the backbone of any working farm and a key part of FS17. Pickings have been far from slim in previous editions, and thankfully that legacy remains, as FS17 boasts 250 unique vehicles from 75 different brands. There are also a number of new brands added this year, with the German agricultural manufacturers Fendt and the Nordic manufacturers Vultra making an appearance too. Thankfully, some of the mods from FS15 have made it to the main game. The inclusion of leased vehicles and equipment is a much needed and well received addition to the game. In an attempt to make your farm more bespoke, FS17 also offers customizable tractors. Customization varies from tractor to tractor, but includes colour, type, engine and optional parts. And that's not all, because now it's possible to listen to internet radio whilst you're driving your tractor. Euro Truck Simulator 2 was the first to include this feature, and I'm sure it's going to be more than welcome here too. The modding community introduced plenty of new livestock for FS15, and Giant have taken note. Not only will FS17 permit the buying and selling of cows, sheep, chickens, and the newest animal to grace the game, pigs, but now you can also breed your livestock. In addition to the new husbandry features, FS17 has introduced water, a critical element for any farm animal. And that's not all. As you will discover, pigs especially are not the tidiest of animals, and as such, cleaning up after them will become part of your daily routine. And if you want to produce manure, then you will need to ensure that they have sufficient bedding too. Sunflowers and soy are two new crops to graze our fields in FS17, and in the root crop department we will see the introduction of oilseed radish. Oilseed radish is a crop which has a small amount of resale value, but it can actually be destroyed in order to add much needed nutrients to the soil. That's right, field management has evolved in FS17, and correct management of your soil is critical to attaining a decent yield. Forestry remains largely untouched in FS17 with just a few simplistic modifications. The ability to secure logs to your trailer using tension belts I have already mentioned, but now not only are all trees in the game fellable, but the selection of tree quality is now of importance. The curvature of a tree will affect the sale price. Last, but by no means least, I want to discuss modding, for without it, Farming Simulator would not be as popular as it currently is. The modding screens have had a UI overhaul, and like everything else, it is clear, concise and pleasant to use. Giant are more than aware that their open access modding approach is critical to this game, but I do feel that sometimes they put too much of a burden on the modding community, who deserve so much praise and credit for all that they do. Some of the best mods from FS15 have not made it to the full game, and I'm also surprised that more emphasis wasn't placed on enhancing the game's functionality in key areas. Two of the key mods from FS15 for me include Courseplay and Drive Control. Both of these mods added essential functionality and realism to the game, and for me, finally made Farming Simulator a simulator. Giant have made more effort this time round to help the modding community to upscale FS15 mods to work with FS17 by way of tutorials and seminars, but I really think more could have been done. I was surprised and disappointed not to see the Steam Workshop added for this game. That being said, the modding community are already on point with numerous mods released already, and I have no doubt that there are more to come. So what are my initial thoughts on the game? Well, Farming Simulator is a well-optimized and structurally sound game which has improved and introduced some nice new features. The UI overhaul is good and makes the game feel more polished, though I feel that certain areas continue to be neglected, and perhaps more could have been done in terms of mod inclusion. That being said, this game has acres of playability, pun intended, and will keep you happily entertained for months, if not years to come. FS17 offers a fantastic foundation, from which I hope will mark the start of this game actually becoming a simulator. My name's Mike, this is SimUK, thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe to see more.